Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Leading Yourself podcast. Today, we're going to dig into a topic that many of us struggle with, often even without realizing it, and that is self-sabotage. Self-sabotage can be a major roadblock on our path to success, happiness, and fulfillment. It's the hidden enemy within that can hinder our progress and keep us from reaching our full potential. In this episode, we're going to explore what self-sabotage is, how it manifests in our day-to-day lives, why we engage in self-sabotage behaviors, and most importantly, how to overcome it. Are you ready? Let's go. Welcome to the Leading Yourself podcast. This is your host, Carolina de Arriba. I'm an HR professional, health and fitness coach, wife, mom, and above all things, a goal-getter. In this podcast, we're going to be digging into all things leadership, professional and career development, habits, and relationships. This is a podcast for those who want to become the best version of themselves. Those who have big dreams and are willing to embrace the journey and put in the work to achieve them. My goal is to share with you the tools, tips, and tricks to help you in your journey. So let's dig into today's episode. Let me tell you before we start that I'm super excited that you're back. If you're new, I want to welcome you to the podcast and to our community. And I'm really happy you're here for today's episode. I've been getting a lot of messages recently that some of the most recent podcast episodes have really resonated with you. And that always makes my day. And I love getting those messages. It really, anytime I get one of those messages, it puts a smile on my face. It makes me feel that all that I'm doing is worth it. And it brings me a level of fulfillment that I can't even explain. So thank you for sending me all of your messages. And I'm so happy that the content is resonating with you, that you're finding it valuable and helpful, that you can relate. Thank you. I want to start with that. And before we jump into our topic today, which is self-sabotage. And I wanted to talk about this for a long time, but I was struggling on how to approach the topic. At first, I thought this was going to be a series of multiple episodes, and I decided to do one episode on the topic. Let's see how it goes. Let's see how you like it, how valuable it is for you, and based on your feedback, we might do a deeper dive on the topic. Definitely is one topic that is of high interest for me because I can see sometimes I self-sabotage myself. I'm a work in progress, so everything that I'm sharing with you today, it's also a good reminder for me of the things that I know, but not always I apply. And I think that it's true for anything that I talk here on the podcast, right? One thing is conceptually knowing something, and the other thing is integrating that as part of your day-to-day life, your rituals, your habits, etc. So I wanted to talk about this because I do believe that self-sabotage can be a major roadblock on our path to success, to happiness, and to fulfillment. It's something that is preventing us from making progress that a lot of times manifests in ways that we are not even conscious of. So today we're going to talk about what is self-sabotage. We're going to talk about how it manifests in our day-to-day lives. So I think this piece is going to be really helpful. For me, it was the part that took me the most time where I was stuck. It was like, I think I am self-sabotaging, but I don't know how or when. So I want to share with you some ways that self-sabotage manifests in your day-to-day so you can identify whether this is something that maybe you're doing unconsciously. Maybe right now you're listening to me and you're like, that's not me. I don't self-sabotage myself. Why would I, right? Why would any of us self-sabotage ourselves? So we're going to talk also about why we engage in these behaviors, which I think is really interesting. And then most importantly, we're going to talk about how to overcome self-sabotage. So let's start by understanding what self-sabotage actually is. And at its core, self-sabotage involves engaging in behaviors or thought patterns or thoughts that undermine our own success and our own well-being. It's like having an internal saboteur that sets us back just when we're about to make progress. Self-sabotage can be both conscious and unconscious. Sometimes we know we're doing something that it's not in our best interest, but we still do it anyways. Other times, we might not even realize that our actions or our attitude is holding us back. Some common examples of self-sabotage include procrastination or perfectionism or self-doubt and negative self-talk. We're going to go deeper into all of those because I think this part is a really, really important, looking at how it manifests in our day-to-day lives. Because a lot of times, as I said, we are engaging in these behaviors unconsciously. We are unconsciously sabotaging ourselves. And one thing that I've learned is that self-sabotage can take many forms. And it is often disguised as a rational behavior. So let's talk about some of those common ways that self-sabotage shows up in our daily routine. So I already mentioned a few, but the first one is procrastination, putting off important tasks until the last minute, creating unnecessary stress and reducing the quality of work. This is often driven by fear or a desire of perfection. I'll tell you, I'm guilty of this. How many times I haven't had an important presentation that I need to work on, and I have maybe a month to work on it, and I keep pushing it and pushing it and pushing back because I think, or I tell myself this story that I work better under pressure, or that I still have time, and then I create an unnecessary level of stress, and potentially I set myself up for failure. So that is definitely one way that I self-sabotage myself. Okay, the second one is getting closer to a goal and then quitting. Just as you're about to achieve that significant, you back out and stop trying. It might be due to the fear of success, or also can be fear of the changes that achieving that could bring to your life. The third way that we self-sabotage is being in an unhealthy relationship, staying in relationships that are harmful and are not fulfilling, whether are romantic or not. This might be due to low self-esteem or fear of being alone, but it's another way that sometimes we self-sabotage ourselves. The fourth one is not keeping your word to yourself, making promises to yourself, such as setting, a personal goal or a resolution or an intention and consistently breaking them. This one is really dangerous because it erodes our self-trust and our confidence. And it is a way of self-sabotaging in the short term, but also in the long term because of the impact that it has to our self-trust and confidence. Another one is setting unrealistic goals, creating goals that are impossible to achieve. It's like setting yourself up for failure and for disappointment. And this often stems on perfectionism. If you are a perfectionist or a recovering perfectionist like me, we like to create this impossible, unachievable goals. I always say, I have very high expectations for myself. And that is different than setting unrealistic goals, right? I think you need to set goals that challenge you, that push you out of your comfort zone, but they still need to be realistic, right? So if you're consistently setting these unrealistic goals and setting yourself up for failure and for disappointment, that is a way that you're self-sabotaging yourself. Another way is not trying. avoiding taking action altogether due to fear of failure or fear of judgment or any other kind of fear. And this can lead to missed opportunities and to stagnation. The next one is resisting change, avoiding new experiences or changes because they're uncomfortable. And I mean, let's be realistic. The only constant is change. There's always something changing in our lives, personally, professionally, sometimes in all areas of our life at once. So this avoidance or this resistance to change keeps us stuck in the familiar, but sometimes, many times, unproductive patterns. The next one is refusing to seek help, not reaching out for support when we need it. This might be due to pride, to fear of appearing weak, or I believe that you should handle everything on your own. I'm guilty of this one a lot of times. It's like, I know I need help, and I'm like, no, but I can't do this by myself. I should do it by myself. And I typically don't ask for help until the last minute. Like, I really push out asking for help. That is something that I'm working on in having the ability to seek help. Number 10 is suppressing our emotions, avoiding dealing with your feelings or numbing them through distractions or sometimes unhealthy behaviors is another way that sometimes we self-sabotage ourselves. And this one can lead to an emotional buildup and eventually emotional outburst. So this one can be really dangerous and something that none of us should do, avoiding dealing with our feelings, right? And this one is tough, right? And depending on the root cause of those feelings, we might need to seek for help to help us process those emotions. Okay, 2 more. Identifying yourself with negative talk. This is about internalizing negative labels and believing that they define you. This can limit your potential and keep you from trying new things. And the last one is to shy away from comfort and the unknown, right? It's avoiding stepping out of your comfort zone, in other words. And this is preventing you to grow and to keep you from discovering new opportunities and new strengths that maybe you have that you don't know you do. So anyways, those are some of the patterns, some of the ways that self-sabotage manifest in our lives. And by recognizing these patterns in our own lives, we can begin to see where self-sabotage might be holding us back. It's crucial to identify these behaviors when we are engaging in these behaviors and understand that they're not just random habits, but a lot of times they're deliberate actions that are hindering our progress. I remember one time I was close to completing a major project at work, and instead of pushing through the end, I found myself making excuses and delaying those final steps. I don't know if you can relate to that. I always remember that time. And looking back, I realized I was afraid of the responsibility and the visibility that success will bring. That's a conclusion I came to, that was the reason why I did that. Something that I would have never thought of myself, because I am the kind of person that is more afraid of failure than it is afraid of success. At least that's what I think. But recognizing this pattern helped me address the underlying fears and be able to complete that project with confidence. And that is something that I think has been very helpful for me personally, is just identifying when I'm engaging in some of these behaviors. So starting to go through the day more conscious and more intentional of identifying when are we doing these things and how is that self-sabotage is manifesting in our lives. So let's talk about now why we self-sabotage. And I'm going to talk about 6 main reasons. But I want to start by saying that understanding why we engage in self-sabotage is key to overcome it. So there are several underlying reasons why we engage in these behaviors, and understanding the reasons behind it's crucial if we want to overcome it. So let's go through 6 of them. The first one is we don't believe that we deserve better. This mindset often stems from a low self-esteem or past experiences that have led us to believe that we are unworthy of success or happiness. When we don't believe that we deserve better, we unconsciously act in a way that keep us from achieving our goals. So an example of this is you might avoid applying for a promotion because deep down you feel you're not good enough, even if your performance suggests otherwise. The second why is that we struggle to understand what we need and what we want. And see, without a clear understanding of our needs and our desires, we can't effectively work towards fulfilling them. This confusion can lead to actions that eventually are just sabotaging our progress, right? So an example of this, if you're unsure about your career path, for example, you might jump from job to job without making any real progress, simply because you haven't identified what truly makes you happy, what truly is that you want, what is that you're after. The third reason why we self-sabotage is that we focus on instant gratification. We live in a world where immediate rewards are highly valued, right? Likes on social media. We live in an Amazon Prime kind of society. It's easy to choose short-term pleasures over long-term goals. And this typically leads to procrastination or us just avoiding tasks that require sustained effort. For example, it's in the evening, you choose to binge watch TV shows instead of studying for an exam or working on a project that it's due tomorrow because of the immediate pleasure of entertainment, right? It outweighs the delayed reward of having good grades or completing that project or whatever that is. Another reason why we self-sabotage is we have seen self-sabotage modeled in our family. What do I mean by this? Family dynamics play a significant role in shaping our behaviors. If you have grown up in an environment where self-sabotage was common, you might unconsciously adopt those same patterns yourself. If your parents, for example, often spoke negatively about their abilities to, or they gave up on their goals consistently, you might find yourself doing the same, believing that it's a normal way to just cope with challenges. The fifth reason is that we are afraid of rejection, or we are afraid of failure that may come if we try. See, fear of failure or fear of rejection can be paralyzing. Rather than risk these outcomes, we might choose not to try at all, ensuring that we don't face that potential disappointment. So we think we're protecting ourselves from feeling that disappointment, and that paralyzes us. An example of this is, for example, not submitting a proposal to participate on a promotion or a job because you're afraid that you will not be chosen. And therefore, you are protecting yourself, I'm making air quotes over here, from the rejection of not being chosen and decide not to apply altogether. And the last reason why we self-sabotage is because we feel more, quote unquote, in control when we engage with familiar patterns, even if they're harmful. See, familiarity provides a sense of control and comfort, even if the patterns we engage in are harmful. And change requires stepping into the unknown, which can be frightening for a lot of us. An example of this is continuing to stay in an unfulfilling job because it's what you know, rather than seeking a new opportunity that might be more rewarding, but it's also At the same time, it's uncertain. You don't know what's going to happen. And now you have a stability maybe, and you don't know if you might not have that if you move. So that is another reason why sometimes we self-sabotage ourselves. I hope these examples are helpful. I was trying to find examples that everyone listening can relate to, that have been there before, or maybe you're going through some of these things now. I hope these were helpful. At the end of the day, by understanding these underlying reasons, we can begin to address the root cause of self-sabotage. Recognizing these patterns is definitely the first step towards changing them. Remember, it's not about blaming yourself for having these tendencies, but it's about gaining insights into why they exist, so then you can work towards overcoming them. So now that we've defined what self-sabotage is and why we do it and how it manifests in our lives, let's talk about how to overcome it. And I'm going to share 9 tips to overcome self-sabotage. The first one is awareness and acknowledgement. The first step, as I have already said, to overcome self-sabotage is recognizing when you're doing it. Pay attention to those behaviors and those thoughts. Acknowledge that you're self-sabotaging yourself and understand why. A lot of times it just takes us to take a pause, to reflect on it, and like, why am I doing this? Trying to get to the root cause. But first is just the awareness that is happening and the acknowledgement as well. Sometimes we are aware, but we are in denial of us self-sabotaging ourselves, because as I said before, who would sabotage themselves? We all want to be successful. Why would I do anything to prevent me or slowing me down from making progress towards my goals and being successful and happy and fulfilled? No one rationally will do this, but self-sabotage is not a product of our rational behavior. It's more emotional than anything else. Okay, second is identifying the triggers. Reflect on situations or emotions that trigger that self-sabotage behavior. What it is. Is it the deadline? Is it the challenging task? Is it the feelings of inadequacy? What triggers that self-sabotage? Knowing your triggers can help you prepare and respond to those triggers differently, so you don't fall into the self-sabotage. The third tip is to set realistic goals. And not only to set realistic goals, but also to break those goals into smaller, manageable tasks. That is going to reduce your feeling of being overwhelmed and can help you to make consistent progress. The fourth tip is to practice self-compassion. Be kind to yourself. Understand that everyone makes mistakes and experiences setbacks, and treating yourself with the same compassion that you would offer to a friend. Because typically we are harder on ourselves than we are on others. If someone was going through the same situation that you are, you would be kinder to that person that you are to yourself. So practice self-compassion. Be kind to yourself. And just know that we all make mistakes. We all have setbacks. We all engage in self-sabotage. And we just need to be patient and practice self-compassion. The fifth tip is to challenge those negative thoughts. As those negative thoughts arise, question their validity. Are they based on facts or unfounded fears? Replace them with positive affirmations, with realistic, positive perspectives. A lot of times when these thoughts come, I always ask myself, is this true? And then I ask again, but it is true. And then I ask, but it is really true. Like 3 times I ask, is this thought true? Or is just a makeup of my mind in an attempt to protect myself? Because there is an underlying unfold fear that is creating that thought. So questioning and challenging those negative thoughts and be able to look at them from a different perspective. A lot of times when these negative self-talks arrive, when these negative thoughts arise in our mind, we are looking at the situation as a glass half empty. We're focusing on what can go wrong. Sometimes it's about, but what if it goes right? Right? Changing our perspective can be as easy as asking ourselves, but what if it goes right? The next tip is to seek support. To surround yourself with supportive people who encourage and motivate you. Sometimes shaping your goals and challenges with others can provide accountability and also perspective, which can be very helpful in overcoming self-sabotage. Number 7 is to develop healthy habits. This one is about replacing those self-sabotaging behaviors with healthier alternatives. For example, instead of procrastinating, set a timer for focus on work, like use the Pomodoro technique we've talked about before, and allow short breaks in between. The 8th one is to visualize success. This one is one of my favorites. It's about imagine yourself achieving your goals and the positive impact that has in your life and in the life of others around you. Visualization is such a powerful tool that can boost your motivation and reduce your fear. Anytime that I feel that I'm stuck, anytime that I feel I'm sabotaging myself, I do this. I visualize myself as if I have already achieved what I'm pursuing, and I'm focusing on how I am feeling when I achieve that, what impact it has in my life, but also more importantly, what impact I'm creating in others around me. And the last one is to seek for help. And sometimes that means professional help. If self-sabotage is significantly impacting your life, I would invite you to consider seeking help from a therapy or a counselor or a coach that can help you uncover deeper issues and develop effective strategies to overcome your self-sabotage. So, we're coming to an end. Self-sabotage is common. It's also a powerful force that can hold us back from reaching our full potential. I hope that is the conclusion we all come to at the end of today's podcast episode. And also that by understanding what it is, by recognizing how it manifests, and by taking proactive steps to overcome it, we can break free from its grip and lead more fulfilling lives. Thank you so much once again for joining me on another episode of the podcast. I hope these insights and these strategies empower you to recognize and overcome self-sabotage in your life. If you found this episode helpful, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with others who might benefit from this discussion. Until next time, remember to lead yourself with purpose, with resilience, with strength. Have an amazing week ahead. And I can't wait to talk to you again next week here on the Leading Yourself podcast. Okay, my friend, that's all I've got for you today. But before you go, 2 quick reminders. Number 1, if we're not already friends on Instagram, let's get connected. You can find me as Leading Yourself Podcast. Number 2, make sure you're subscribed to the podcast so you never miss an episode. Thank you so much for joining me today. I am incredibly grateful that you're in this journey with me. I want to leave you with one last thought. I want to remind you that you're destined for more and that every step that you take brings you closer to becoming that best version of yourself. Embrace each day as a chance to learn, grow, and chase your dreams. The world needs you to shine brightly, so go out and show up fully and authentically. Take care, and I'll see you next time.